This reading is from the book of the 1000 Nights and a Night, as translated by Sir Richard Burton, published in 1885. The tales are told each evening by Scheherazade, as a ploy to prevent her execution by her husband king. Burton's introduction creates the scene. This work, laborious as it may appear, has been to me a labor of love, an unfailing source of solace and satisfaction. During my long years of official banishment to the luxuriant and deadly deserts of Western Africa, and to the dull and dreary half-clearings of South America, it proved itself a charm, a talisman against ennui and despondency. Impossible even to open the pages without a vision starting into view, without drawing a picture from the pinacotheque of the brain, without reviving a host of memories and reminiscences which are not the common property of travelers, however widely they may have traveled. From my dull and commonplace and respectable surroundings, the jinn bore me at once to the land of my predilection, Arabia, a region so familiar to my mind that even at first sight it seemed a reminiscence of some bygone metempsychic life in the distant past. Again I stood under the diaphanous skies, in air glorious as ether, whose every breath raises men's spirit like sparkling wine. Once more I saw the evening star, hanging like a solitaire from the pure front of the western firmament, and the afterglow transfiguring and transforming, as if by magic, the homely and rugged features of the scene into a fairyland lit with a light which never shines on other soils or seas. Then would appear the woolen tents, low and black, of the true Bedouin, mere dots in the boundless waste of lion-tawny clays and gazelle-brown gravels, and a campfire dotting like a glowworm the village center. Presently, sweetened by distance, would be heard the wild, weird songs of lads and lasses, driving, or rather pelting, through the gloaming their sheep and goats, and the measured chant of the spearsmen gravelly stalking behind their charge, the camels, mingled with the bleating of the flocks and the bellowing of the humpy herds, while the rear mouse flitted overhead with his tiny shriek, and the rave of the jackal resounded through deepening glooms, and, most musical of music, the palm trees answered the whispers of the night breeze with the softest tones of falling water. The story of the 250th night and the notes that follow reveal some of the medicinal uses of cannabis and other herbs. Quoth King Shahryar, "O Scheherazade, this is indeed a most wonderful tale." And she answered, "O King, it is not more wonderful than the tale of Ala al-Din Abu al-Shamat." "What is that?" asked he. And she said, "It hath reached me that there lived, in times of yore and years and ages long gone before, a merchant of Cairo named Shams al-Din, who was of the best and truest spoken of the traders of the city. And he had eunuchs and servants and negro slaves and handmaids and mamelukes and great store of money. Moreover, he was consul of the merchants of Cairo and owned a wife whom he loved and who loved him, except that he had lived with her 40 years, yet had not been blessed with a son or even a daughter. One day, as he sat in his shop, he noted that the merchants, each and every, had a son or 2 sons or more sitting in their shops like their sires. Now the day being Friday, he entered the hammam bath and made the total ablution, after which he came out and took the barber's glass and looked in it, saying, "I testify that there is no God but the God, and I testify that Mohammed is the messenger of God." Then he considered his beard, and seeing that the white hairs in it covered the black, he thought himself that hoariness is the harbinger of death. Now his wife knew the time of his coming home, and had washed and made herself ready for him. So when he came in to her, she said, "Good evening." But he replied, "I see no good." Then she called to the handmaid, "Spread the supper tray." And when this was done, quoth she to her husband, "Sup, O my lord." Quoth he, "I will eat nothing," and pushing the tray away with his foot, turned his back upon her. She asked, "Why dost thou thus?" and what hath vexed thee? And he answered, Thou art the cause of my vexation. And Scheherazade perceived the dawn of day, and ceased saying her permitted say. When it was the 250th night, she said, It hath reached me, O auspicious king, that Shams al-Din said to his wife, Thou art the cause of my vexation. And she asked, Wherefore? And he answered, When I opened my shop this morning, I saw that each and every of the merchants had with him a son, or 2 sons, or more, sitting in their shops like their fathers. And I said to myself, He who took thy sire will not spare thee. Now the night I first visited thee, thou madest me swear that I would never take a second wife over thee, nor a concubine, Abyssinian or Greek, or handmaid of other race, nor would lie a single night away from thee. And behold, thou art barren, and having thee is like boring into rock. Rejoined she, Allah is my witness, that the fault lies with thee, for that thy seed is thin. He asked, And what showeth the man whose semen is thin? And she answered, He cannot get women with child, nor beget children. Quoth he, What thickeneth the seed? Tell me, and I will buy it. Haply it will thicken mine. Quoth she, Inquire for it of the druggists. So he slept with her that night, and arose on the morrow, repenting of having spoken angrily to her, and she also regretted her cross words. Then he went to the market, and finding a druggist, saluted him, and when his salutation was returned, said to him, Say, hast thou with thee a seed thickener? He replied, I had it, but am out of it. Inquire thou of my neighbor. Then Shams al-Din made the round till he had asked everyone, but they all laughed at him, and presently he returned to his shop and sat down, sorely troubled. Now there was in the bazaar a man who was deputy syndic of the brokers, and was given to the use of opium, and electuary, and green hashish. He was called Sheikh Mohammed Samsam, and being poor he used to wish Shams al-Din good morrow every day. So he came to him according to his custom, and saluted him. The merchant returned his salute, but in ill temper, and the other, seeing him vexed, said, O my lord, what hath crossed thee? Thereupon Shams al-Din told him all that had occurred between himself and his wife, adding, These 40 years I have been married to her, yet hath she borne me neither son nor daughter. And they say, the cause of thy failure to get her with child is the thinness of thy seed. So I have been seeking a something wherewith to thicken my semen, but not found it. Quoth Sheikh Mohammed, O my lord, I have a seed thickener, but what wilt thou say to him who causeth thy wife to conceive by thee after these 40 years have passed? Answered the merchant, If thou do this, I will work thy wheel and reward thee. Then give me a dinar, rejoined the broker, and Shams al-Din said, Take these 2 dinars. He took them and said, Give me also yonder big bowl of porcelain. So he gave it to him, and the broker betook himself to a hashish seller, of whom he bought 2 ounces of concentrated Rumi opium, and equal parts of Chinese cubebs, cinnamon, cloves, cardamoms, ginger, white pepper, and mountain skink, a lizard, and pounding them all together, boiled them in sweet olive oil, after which he added 3 ounces of male frankincense in fragments, and a couple of coriander seeds, and macerating the whole, made it into an electuary with Rumi bee honey. Then he put the confection in the bowl, and carried it to the merchant, to whom he delivered it, saying, Here is the seed thickener, and the manner of using it is this. Take of my electuary with a spoon after supping, and wash it down with a sherbet made of rose conserve, but first sup off mutton and house pigeon, plentifully seasoned and hotly spiced. So the merchant bought all this, and sent the meat and pigeons to his wife, saying, Dress them deftly, and lay up the seed thickener until I want it, and call for it. She did his bidding, and when she served up the meats, he ate the evening meal, after which he called for the bowl, and ate of the electuary. It pleased him very well, so he ate the rest, and knew his wife. That very night she conceived by him, and after 3 months her courses ceased, no blood came, and she knew that she was with child. When the days of her pregnancy were accomplished, the pangs of labor took her, and they raised loud lullaluins and cries of joy. The midwife delivered her with difficulty by pronouncing over the boy at his birth the names of Muhammad and Ali, and said, "Allah is most great," and she called in his ear the call to prayer. Then she wrapped him up and passed him to his mother, who took him and gave him the breast, and he sucked and was full and slept. The midwife abode with them 3 days, till they had made the mothering cakes of sugared bread and sweetmeats, and they distributed them on the 7th day. Then they sprinkled salt against the evil eye, and the merchant, going in to his wife, gave her joy of her safe delivery, and said, "Where is Allah's deposit?" So they brought him a babe of surpassing beauty, the handiwork of the orderer, who is ever present. And though he was but 7 days old, those who saw him would have deemed him a yearling child. So the merchant looked on his face, and seeing it like a shining full moon, with moles on either cheek, said he to his wife, "What hast thou named him?" Answered she, "If it were a girl, I had named her, but this is a boy, so none shall name him but thou." Now the people of that time used to name their children by omens, and whilst the merchant and his wife were taking counsel of the name, behold, one said to his friend, "Ho, my lord, Aladdin." So the merchant said, "We will call him Aladdin Abu al-Shamat." Some other recipes Burton refers to follow. In India, hashish is called majun, electuary generally. It is made of ganja, or young leaves, buds, capsules, and florets of hemp, poppy seed, and flowers of the thorn apple, or datura, with milk and sugar candy, nutmegs, cloves, mace, and saffron, all boiled to the consistency of treacle, which hardens when cold. Several recipes are given by haircloths. These electuaries are usually prepared with charas, or gum of hemp, collected by hand or by passing a blanket over the plant in early morning, and it is highly intoxicating. Another intoxicant is sabzi, dried hemp leaves, poppy seed, cucumber seed, black pepper, and cardamoms, rubbed down in a mortar with a wooden pestle, made drinkable by adding milk, ice cream, etc. The hashish of Arabia is the Hindustani bhang, usually drunk and made as follows: cake of hemp leaves, well washed, 3 drams, black pepper, 45 grains, and of cloves, nutmeg, and mace, which add to the intoxication, each 12 grains. Steep in 8 ounces of water, or the juice of watermelon or cucumber. Strain and drink. The Egyptian zabiba is a preparation of hemp florets, opium, and honey, much affected by the lower orders, whence the proverb, "Temper thy sorrow with zabiba." In all Hijaz, it is mixed with raisins and smoked in the water pipe. Besides these are 1. Post poppy seeds, prepared in various ways but especially in sugared sherbets. 2. Datura stramonium seed, the produce of the thorn apple, bleached and put into sweetmeats by dishonest confectioners. It is a dangerous intoxicant, producing spectral visions, delirium tremens, etc. And 3. Various preparations of opium, especially the madad, pills made up with toasted betel leaf and smoked. The Victorian fascination with the archetypal garden, which embraced the Arabic garden tradition, is reflected in this descriptive passage, A Cannabis Dream Come True. This is Baghdad, and 'tis the city where security is to be had. Winter with his frosts hath turned away, and prime hath come his roses to display. And the flowers are glowing, and the trees are blowing, and the streams are flowing. So Nur al-Din landed, he and his handmaid, and giving the captain 5 dinars, walked on a little way till the decrees of destiny brought them among the gardens, and they came to a place swept and sprinkled, with benches along the walls, and hanging jars filled with water. Overhead was a trellis of reedwork and canes shading the whole length of the avenue, and at the upper end was a garden gate, but this was locked. "By Allah," quoth Nur al-Din to the damsel, "right pleasant is this place." And she replied, "Oh, my lord, sit with me a while on this bench, and let us take our ease." So they mounted and sat themselves down on the bench, after which they washed their faces and hands, and the breeze blew cool on them, and they fell asleep, and glory be to him who never sleepeth. Now this garden was named the Garden of Gladness, and therein stood the Palace of Pleasure, and the Pavilion of Pictures, the whole belonging to the Caliph Harun al-Rashid, who was wont, when his breast was straitened with care, to frequent garden and palace, and there to sit. The palace had 80 latticed windows, and 80 lamps, hanging round a great candelabrum of gold, furnished with wax candles. And when the Caliph used to enter, he would order the handmaids to throw open the lattices and light up the rooms. And he would bid Ishaq bin Ibrahim, the cup companion, and the slave girls to sing till his breast was broadened and his ailments were allayed. Now the keeper of the garden, Sheikh Ibrahim, was a very old man, and he had found from time to time, when he went out on any business, people pleasuring about the garden gate with their bona robas, at which he was angered with exceeding anger. But he took patience till one day when the Caliph came to his garden, and he complained of this to Harun al-Rashid, who said, "Whomsoever thou surprisest about the door of the garden, deal with him as thou wilt." Now on this day the gardener chanced to be abroad on some occasion, and returning found these two sleeping at the gate, covered with a single mantilla. Whereupon he said, "By Allah, good, these twain know not that the Caliph hath given me leave to slay anyone I may catch at the door, but I will give this couple a shrewd whipping, that none may come near the gate in the future." So he cut a green palm frond, and went up to them, and raising his arm till the white of his armpit appeared, was about to strike them, when he bethought himself and said, "O Ibrahim, wilt thou beat them unknowing their case? Haply they are strangers, or sons of the road, and the decrees of destiny have thrown them here. I will uncover their faces and look at them." So he lifted up the mantilla from their heads and said, "They are a handsome couple. It were not fitting that I should beat them." Then he covered their faces again, and going to Nur al-Din's feet, began to rub and shampoo them. Whereupon the youth opened his eyes, and seeing an old man of grave and reverend aspect rubbing his feet, he was ashamed, and drawing them in, sat up. Then he took Sheikh Ibrahim's hand and kissed it. Quoth the old man, "O my son, whence art thou?" And quoth he, "O my lord, we are two strangers." And the tears started from his eyes. "O my son," said Sheikh Ibrahim, "know that the Prophet, whom Allah bless and preserve, hath enjoined honor to the stranger," and added, "Wilt thou not arise, O my son, and pass into the garden, and solace thyself by looking at it, and gladden thy heart?" "O my lord," said Nur al-Din, "to whom doth this garden belong?" And the other replied, "O my son, I have inherited it from my folk." Now his object in saying this was to set them at their ease and induce them to enter the garden. So Nur al-Din thanked him and rose, he and the damsel, and followed him into the garden. And lo, it was a garden, and what a garden! The gate was arched like a great hall, and over walls and roof ramped vines with grapes of many colors, the red like rubies and the black like ebonies, and beyond it lay a bower of trellised boughs growing fruit single and composite, and small birds on branches sang with melodious recite, and the 1,000-noted nightingale shrilled with her varied shright, and the turtle with her cooing filled the sight. The blackbird whistled like a magical wight, and the ring-dove moaned like a drinker in grievous plight. The trees grew in perfection, all edible growths, and fruited all manner fruits, which in pairs were bipartite, with the camphor apricot, the almond apricot, and the apricot Khorasani height, the plum like the face of beauty, smooth and bright, the cherry that makes teeth shine clear by her sleight, and the fig of 3 colors, green, purple, and white. There also blossomed the violet, as it were sulphur on fire by night, the orange with buds like pink coral and marguerite, the rose whose redness gars the loveliest cheeks, flushed with despite, and myrtle and gilliflower and lavender with the red blood anemone from Numan height. The leaves were all gemmed with tears the clouds had dight, The chamomile smiled, showing teeth that bite, and Narcissus, with his negro eyes, fixed on Rose his sight. The citrons shone with fruits emboweled, and the lemons like balls of gold. The earth was carpeted with flowers tinctured infinite. For spring has come, brightening the place with joy and delight, and the streams ran ringing to the birds' gay singing, while the rustling breeze upspringing attempered the air to temperance exquisite. Sheikh Ibrahim carried them up into the pavilion, and they gazed on its beauty, and on the lamps aforementioned in the latticed windows. And Nur al-Din, remembering his entertainments of time past, cried, "By Allah, this is a pleasant place. It hath quenched in me anguish, which burned as a fire of Gaza wood."
as blue and white, and by the Master's hand, ride forth and wake the land till Easter sun rises, that all is won. The Queen walks by, dewdrop of diamonds in her eyes, nectar of rubies in her heart, and smile of sapphires on her lips. In clear radiance, she has been to the temple of the Lord and seen his face.
Tired and scattered, reconstruct me from the tatters, resurrect me from the ash and the earth. So learn to dance. Slowly our day comes to be by my side. something we both knew. The ideals which you base this plan on have been lost on the way. When I think of what we used to share, I sometimes have to close my eyes and sway. I'd held my tongue. Riding a push bike with no hands seems quite a natural thing to do when you're young. I'd like to think you'll change your tune, but if you did, what could I say? When a broken promise stings you badly, you sometimes have to close your eyes and just sway, 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 sway.
The modern pioneer is what he'd like to think. Somewhere between the screen door and the kitchen sink. He knows the family house could be his only home. Things seem quite different in a crowd than when you're alone. This is the house that Jack built, with permits he got from his brother's mate. He's sitting on local council. A second income was all that he ever was. You don't have to be rich if you want to dance, but it helps if you want to be in with a chance of finding your way against the common good. You can make money talk, that's if you think it should. This is the house that Jack built, with permits he got from his brother's mate. He's sitting on local council. A second income was all that he ever was. This is the house that Jack built, with permits he got from his brother's mate. He's sitting on local council. A second income was all that he ever was.
but she slept like no other. But that's okay at any time and anyway. These are the days, the night, not much in between. You only know a friend, one's friend she's gone, she's seen. Sad but sad to see the face of loneliness. If there's one thing she could do to take the night from round her, on a better day the phone would ring, the kettle sings a different tune. But that's okay at any time and anyway. These are the days, the nights, and not much in between. You only know a friend, one's friend she's gone, she's seen. Sad
nice and smooth. day will come. I get this feeling everyone will fall.